Audio Jungle.
Alrighty. Well, we had it at the high school ranks a couple weeks ago. We had it at the college ranks to a small degree last week, but finally, in all facets, football is back. And God, it feels so good. And that is why I am joined by fellow football aficionado and fanatic, and who is currently getting beat by me in fantasy football, Kyle Weatherly.
Hey now.
I'm just stating facts. I need to brag while I'm on top because you're probably going to catch me.
It's been a rough week one, for sure.
But
For sure.
Kyle Weatherly from Channel 7 KSWO here in Lawton, Fort Sill. And, you know, when I initially brought up the idea of doing this, you know, you were obviously on board. And then when I brought on the idea of, or what we were going to talk about, I talked about, you know, Oklahoma starting their Big 12 title defense last night. You mentioned, well, we're probably going to have to be very generic because for the first time in I don't know how long, nobody from KSWO or the Constitution was covering OU season opener due to limited media and obviously the game being on pay-per-view. How weird was that for you not being in Norman for a game day?
Very strange, especially basically just having to rely on the radio broadcast to get the feel for the game. I mean, we didn't get highlights until after our 10 o'clock newscast went over. So kind of strange last night. Obviously didn't get to see much of the game at all except for just a few short clips. So different, but I guess, you know, you got to do what you got to do in this year.
Yeah, and, you know, I watched just the highlights on YouTube, whatever 5-minute recap there was. And I know people will say on Twitter, and this is why games like this, even if I had a credential for yesterday's game, I was just kind of disinterested because what do you really learn? I mean, we learned that Spencer Rattler is pretty much what it was advertised to be. You know, he's got a quick release, ball gets out of his hands very quickly. But we kind of knew that. I think it was probably just, you know, anybody that was a detractor probably was just, you know, kind of scared by change or, you know, fear of the unknown. Well, we know now. It's less unknown now. And we'll find out more once they face Kansas State here soon. And speaking of your boys from Kansas, holy mackerel, what a weird day for the Big 12.
A horrible day for the Big 12, especially the old Big 12 North.
Yeah.
Iowa State, Kansas State, all look awful. Not a great start. You know, Iowa State was obviously – they're missing some key guys, Charlie Kolar being one of them. They're already going to be kind of limited some options offensively. They're not the most explosive team. It was just kind of a perfect storm for them. I mean, their defense played pretty well, really, outside of one play, but 2 special teams touchdowns, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, and you don't want to read too much into 1 week, but this being such a weird year, I think that Oklahoma, if nothing else, whether they'll be better than last year or not, that's obviously remains to be seen. Whether their road to a Big 12 title or to the playoff will be easier. Well, the road to the playoff already got easier because Ohio State presumably is out of the way. You know, there's talk about the Big Ten possibly trying to come back in October. I don't know. And somehow those teams are still ranked. Polls are meaningless at this point. And, you know, I saw in the AP poll the day that got released, I guess OU moved up to 3rd. I'm like, cool. You know, it really doesn't matter.
I just don't know how the Big Ten works. I mean, starting in October. Like, are they just going to have to play catch-up? Like, how does that happen for the playoffs?
I have no clue. I don't know. Do you just play fewer games or do you just force the other schools to be like, hey, can you take a bye week here? Take like 4 bye weeks. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they just have their conference championship a little bit later on and just don't have a break between the conference championship and the playoffs.
Or do you almost divide the conference into 2 separate conferences in those divisions? Just play your division and then winners kind of play a playing game. I have no clue. Because it's a very bizarre deal. And, you know, like I said on Oklahoma, going back to them real quick, I mean, Spencer Rattler looked good. And I had heard during the week, you know, look out for guys like true freshmen like Seth McGowan and Marvin Mims to see playing time. Well, guess what? They scored the first 2 touchdowns of the season. And Marvin is a guy who, obviously me being a homer for my home state, I mean, if you win the Mr. Texas Football Award, that's no small feat. I mean, he was one of the greatest receivers in Texas high school football history, and he's not just a guy who can high point the ball. He's a guy who can catch balls in space, can catch balls in traffic. He's going to be legit. And what they do, without somebody like a CeeDee Lamb, I think some people were wondering if Theo Howard or Theo Weiss were going to become the number one. I don't think you're going to need to worry too much. I think there's still plenty of depth and plenty of weapons there to play with.
I think you learn more about Mims and McGowan, I think, than you did with Rattler. Because, I mean, Rattler, he's a 5-star prospect. He can sling the ball. That's not the issue. I mean, that's not what you're going to have to learn. He's going to have to learn experience, how to read coverages in the Big 12, how to deal with pressure in the Big 12. He didn't have to face any of that last night. But you learned that Seth McGowan's got a lot of talent at running back, a lot of explosiveness. I would say from what I saw last night, the most explosive, the most talented running back on the roster. And Marvin Mims, first thing that jumped out to me was, my goodness, he reminds me a lot of Sterling Shepard. I mean, that kind of similar build, similar style of receiver, very natural receiver. And he's a guy that can really terrorize defenses, I feel like, especially in the middle of the field.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I don't know if I don't know if it was just in some of the highlights that I watched of him in high school at Frisco Lone Star, but I don't know, he seemed taller than he did last night. And again, I don't mean that as a slight. It's just, there's that old adage that I used to not understand whatsoever about, a guy who's, he plays a lot bigger than he is. Well, I think he's one of those guys that, just because he's, you almost look at somebody like Tylan Wallace. I understand that 6'1" isn't necessarily prototype size for a wide receiver. He plays like he's 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
And, I think Marvin can be that kind of guy. Oklahoma, again, what did you learn? I don't know. I really don't know. There were a couple drops there too, where it's like, that's why you play games like this. That's why you kind of play those paycheck games, so that Austin Stogner's drop isn't costing you a touchdown against Baylor or costing you a touchdown, against Texas or Oklahoma State. So that, we learned, I guess that, yeah, they're better than Missouri State. I don't know what I don't know what else. I don't know. Yeah. Surprise, surprise, I guess. Our good buddy, our mutual friend, the one person that was there, I believe, one of our mutual friends, Dan Lindblad, who now works up in Springfield, Missouri, was covering that. So good on him. Again, though, media, very limited media, and that's going to be it was odd seeing the highlights or seeing the photos, and I think we ran one in the paper today of, they had the cardboard cutouts, some in the stands, and you had some people there, and it's going to feel weird, but at the same time, it just felt good to have football back, whether there's fans or not. It just felt good to watch it again. And, yeah, the options were limited. Yes, I was stuck watching, whatever it was, Florida State and Georgia Tech, go through like a 2-hour weather delay.
Yeah.
I was like, I should be watching Ohio State, Oregon right now. But it is what it is. And one thing that stood out for me was I saw something online where one of the writers covering the game or there in Norman was walking around Campus Corner, walking through campus, kind of down like Greek Row, and seeing people congregate, and kids will be kids. And I think you're going to see this at all schools is, he's like, look, there's 80 people at this house party and no masks. Like, it's troubling. And it at a certain point, you kind of wonder what you can do.
You're just not going to be able to tell college kids to not be college kids. That's just a fact you're going to have to live with. And frankly, at these colleges, all you can do is try to keep your players as far away from that atmosphere as you can. Yeah. I think one thing going back just to the game day atmosphere, something that I don't feel like has been talked about enough, and I didn't think about it even until last night, is just the pregame atmosphere and everything surrounding the pregame, how different that was. I mean, the fact that they're having a pre-recorded performance by the Pride of Oklahoma just on the video board rather than being there in the stadium doing their usual pregame ritual. I mean, that's just so strange to me.
Yeah.
Not even have the pride of Oklahoma in the stadium and having to watch a pre-recorded performance from them. That just takes away so much from the game day atmosphere. I mean, I guess you're just going to have to kind of live with that this year, but that's what makes college football great. The pregame and the in-game pageantry of college football. That's what I love so much about college football, much more than the NFL. You don't get that in the NFL. And that's what makes it unique. You makes it special. And be missing out on that this year just really sucks.
It absolutely takes away from it. I mean, you know, as somebody who didn't play, competitive football, somebody who, whose high school athletic career was, whose athletic career ended after high school, essentially. Like, part of me always kind of wanted to like run out of a tunnel with like, pyrotechnics going off and playing AC/DC or whatever. It takes away a little bit when you're running out through the fire and the fireworks and there's like, 10,000 people cheering for you. I don't know. It's just, or if you're in the NBA bubble, I guess it's, the NBA has tried some of those things where, for the player intros, they had the, what was it, like the players' family members or children announce, and that's awesome. And, but you're right. Yeah, the pageantry just, it's different. It's way different. And, I don't know. The no tailgating on campus. That was one of the cooler things for me, and also kind of selfishly a heartbreaking thing for me was walking. Whether it was in Norman or Stillwater, but especially in Norman, you have to walk to get to the media gate. You have to walk basically through the tailgating tents, and knowing that, yes, I'm extremely lucky. I get to go cover football for my job, but I'm looking around and all the smells and the sights and the sounds. I'm like, I could really go for a bratwurst and a beer right now. Like, you guys are so lucky. And then I get up there and remember why I'm there. But, it's like, yeah, it is weird. And people are going to, seeing College Game Day yesterday and no fans. And, people are in there holding up their signs in the parking lot by themselves. I'm like, it's so weird. It feels odd, but if feeling weird and uncomfortable about this is the worst thing that happens, we're fine. I just hope that it doesn't, kill more games, because you've already seen, certain games be canceled or rescheduled. TCU and SMU, Baylor, I guess, announced that they're going to play Houston now, that since they each had their first games canceled. It's so bizarre. All of it is just very strange.
It's going to be a week-to-week deal. I mean, hopefully once you get into conference play, you're not having to maneuver around as much. The good thing, Big 12, they do have some built-in bye weeks to maybe help with that. That's another thing going back to the Big 10. They start this late. You're not really going to have those built-in bye weeks. If you're trying to get things done in time for a playoff, you're going to have zero room for error there. And if a program has a couple guys get sick, I mean, we saw Oklahoma last night. I mean, talks of as many as 17 guys being not even there, out of uniform, potentially due to COVID, either a positive test or a quarantine situation through contact tracing. I mean, if that hits a team in the wrong time, that's going to make a huge impact. Obviously, last night it didn't matter. You're playing Missouri State, but you're missing 4 or 5 starters when you're playing Oklahoma State or Texas or somebody like that. That's going to be a huge impact.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, and the 17 players that were quarantined, and then the however many others that were rumored to have potentially been, and then obviously the bizarre deal. And I thought it was a joke at first, and I think I misread it as Gabe Eichard, but it was Gabe Burkage, who apparently missed his alarm clock. And
that was a joke.
Okay. All right. I wanted to make sure. I thought it was. But the fact that he didn't play, and again, a lot of people might shrug and be like, "Yeah, but it's a kicker." Well, when he's one of the best kickers in the country, you prefer to have him than not. So yesterday was very strange. It felt good to have college football back, but it didn't feel the same. And I think that's a fact that I'm going to have to live with, and I think we're all going to have to live with. As much as you mentioned about the pageantry of the college football, high school football in Oklahoma, obviously a lot of pageantry too, and they are also seeing the effects of games being canceled and postponed. You and I, obviously, in our area, we had, Walters and Waurika were not able to play for multiple weeks. Frederick and Hobart did not play this past week, and that was a game I was really looking forward to. And we're thinking, it's a situation where we're trying to decide where to send our riders for this upcoming week, and a lot of our local teams are not playing in town, or they're maybe a little far away distance wise for us to cover. Well, it's like if Walters is playing at home, which they are, we would love to cover them. Are they even going to have a game? We don't know. And it just creates a lot of unknowns for us. And I was curious as to how that kind of has affected your job, because I know that you have people who help you out in filming games, but how does that affect you in terms of, when you find out what your actual assignments will be for Friday night?
For us, I think it really affects more the pregame stuff leading up to it. We do a game of the week segment every week, and one game we were looking at this last week was going to be Frederick and Hobart. Luckily, that news came down on Monday, but I guarantee you there's probably going to be a time sometime this year where maybe we do a game of the week preview. We get out to two schools. We spend a lot of time on it. Run the preview on Thursday, then turn around on Friday and find out that the game's been canceled. It's just going to happen, unfortunately. Luckily, it hasn't been too bad so far. I was a little worried about, beginning of the season, you saw, a couple games here and there canceled, and the next week you had a few more. Last week it went back down a little bit, so had some teams finally able to open their season. Hopefully we can get back on track and not have that continue to build and build and build, especially because, we're starting district play in 2 weeks. Right now, it's pretty easy to call games. It's non-district games. They don't matter for the playoffs. Teams don't worry about it that much. But when you get into district play, it's going to make it so much tougher to reschedule. And that can be a mess if we have, multiple teams out every week.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's, people were so concerned at the beginning about well, what do you do if you have to cancel a game? I think that once we got to it, I think a lot of people realized, it's a lot like if we had, a rain out or something like that. It's treated a lot the same way, except you often know ahead of time. Whereas, I was going back and looking at our archives last year. I forgot there was, we had a game last year where one of our writers, it was his first time writing for us, and I think he was covering Elgin, and they got rained out. And he's like, what do I do? I was like, you write what you know. Just say that they got rained out, and it changes the way that you, for us, it changes how much space gets taken up in the paper. For you, it changes how much time gets taken up in your sportscast. And, it's just one of those things where, I wasn't even sure how far I was allowed on the field to take photos, and things like that. But yeah, it's, you're already seeing, and this is just, I haven't checked on it, but I believe, one of the writers for the Stillwater News Press commented recently that, Stillwater's big win the other night over Mustang might be the Pioneers' last game for a while, potentially, with Payne County in a red zone. And what does that mean for OSU? And that, I'm no expert on what's going on in Payne County, but I'm, if that's a hotbed area, I don't see how you can, if you're a team that's going to go play them next week, I don't understand how you can really, justify that necessarily.
That, and you certainly can't have a home game. I don't think you're going to get too many teams that want to come into a place that's having a huge spike right now. Now, whether they're allowing, Stillwater to come play at other places, that could be a different story. I think one thing that's kind of been interesting the first couple of weeks has just been how differently different schools, different school districts are handling things. You're seeing some schools, I think there was one school in our area where they just had one kid in the school district, period. It was an elementary student got it, and they shut everything down for a couple of weeks. And then you have some other schools where there's several kids out in the high school, a couple on the football team, and they're still just treating it like an injury and moving forward. So It's kind of been strange seeing how different schools handle different things. It's all new for everybody right now. As far as what we're seeing on Friday nights, I don't think a whole lot has changed. Outside of Cameron Stadium, which I'm going to give some credit to a lot of public schools, they're taking this thing super seriously, and they've done a good job as far as making fans wear masks, making coaches wear them, players wear them. That's really the only place I've noticed a difference this year at all as far as game day atmosphere. How about you?
Yeah, no, I definitely had my doubts, and this is, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, is this is no fault of of Frederick Public Schools, but the first game I covered was at Frederick, and they even had signs up that said, don't crowd around the concession stand or don't stand against this wall. And if you've been to the Bomber Bowl, they have that wall there where everybody kind of leans over the rail, and people still did it. And it's like, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. And, I was still feeling weird. I think, I forget, I was talking to Principal Biggs out there, and I think I just went to like nudge elbows, and he shook my hand, and I was kind of taken aback by that. And he goes, you know what, because I'm not going to get you in trouble, man. I'm not here to, he goes, it's them up there that I need to worry about. And it is something where, all the teams that I've covered for the most part have really taken it seriously. I think I was taken aback at the opening city game when Eisenhower, when I'm down on the field and I see for sure that Eisenhower players do have the masks over their helmets. The MacArthur players, I think, were wearing their gator masks, and the coaches are wearing it. They're all taking it super seriously. I mean, for me, if I'm trying to get a photo of a coach, it makes it a little bit harder to identify somebody if they normally have a beard or a defining facial feature. I'm like, well, I can't tell who anyone is, and they're all wearing the same hat. But it is something where I do think all the schools are, like you said, all the schools in Lawton Public Schools and all the other schools in our area seem to be taking it, pretty darn seriously. And then, you and I were both, as we turn more toward what happens on the gridiron, we've had, technically 3 weeks of play, although only 2 for most of the schools. And then this upcoming week, we have our final city rivalry game as Lawton High takes on Eisenhower. And, each team is just an outstanding running back. And, not to take anything away from the quarterbacks or the defenses or anything, but in back-to-back nights to have, Trayvon Walton go for over 200 yards, have Christian Houston knocking on the door of 200 yards. I mean, that was something to behold. And I know that we live in this era of Patrick Mahomes and Drew Brees and just chuck it. But for a team to, it's not like Lawton High wasn't good at passing the ball. They completed, I think it was like 12 of 17. It was just a masterclass at running the ball. And, what did you take away? Lawton High to me made a huge statement by just pounding the ever-living snot out of MacArthur in that game.
Physically, definitely. I think they set the tone. Christian Houston, that was the most impressive part to me. That big offensive line and Christian Houston, they set the tone for the ball game. That second drive, they went down there and they physically got the job done. He was finishing runs left and right, a couple of really hard-nosed runs into the end zone. He was trucking defensive backs. And you could tell as the night went on, some of those MacArthur defenders were having, less want to when it comes to trying to tackle that guy. And that's just natural. And that's not saying anything bad about them. It's just natural. If you're a guy that's, been getting trucked all night, trying to tackle a guy like that with a full head of steam just gets to be a whole lot less fun as you get in the second and third quarters. And he really saw that, and he really started putting the foot down and really getting after it. And that was really impressive to see. You could tell Lawton High super motivated for that game. They were wanting to send a message, and they certainly did, especially coming after a week against Duncan where I thought they played pretty well. But you could tell talking to Coach Breeze during the week, he thought they left a lot out there against the Demons. He thought they could have put up quite a few more points than they did. Didn't leave much out there last week, for sure.
No, and, I think all of us up in the press box, and I'm sure that Lawton High people will dispute me on this, but, I think all of us up in the press box were kind of shaking our heads saying, did you see this coming? Because I did not. And, I thought Lawton High probably would win the game, but I didn't necessarily think they would, I didn't think they were going to be up 41-0 at halftime. And, I know you and I talked a little bit on Friday. They were super motivated. They wanted, they saw what Eisenhower was able to do, put up 34 points and a half, and they kind of played, anything you can do, I can do better, and proved that, MacArthur still has some work to do, if they want to get back and win city championships again. And it was really an interesting week for 5A. The night before, Eisenhower playing Altus, and that was that was impressive on Eisenhower's part. It is sad to see Altus kind of in this state right now. I mean, I've only talked to Coach Kokenar, I think, once or twice, but super pleasant guy, and I know people who know him speak nothing but highly of him. And I think this is just a byproduct of, returning 2 starters or something like that. B, changing coaches, and C, changing the way you played football for like 35 years. And the quarterback out there, I mean, he had some good moments. I mean, he had some good running moments in the second half. At that point, it was a little too late. But what Eisenhower was able to do, kind of like what we mentioned with OU, games like that, you don't really know what you take away from it. But what did you take away from what Eisenhower did, not just offensively but defensively too?
I'll start with Altus. The one thing people have to – I've seen some negative comments on Facebook. What people have to realize about Altus right now is they're kind of in that stage where they're really having to crawl before they can walk. They've been used to running this flex bone offense where they run an option. It's all on the ground. The blocking schemes are totally different. This year they're doing something 180 degrees the other way. And these kids are having to learn to pass block. They're having to learn to take dropbacks. They're having to learn to run routes, how to catch the ball, how to take handoffs differently. Everything is different. They didn't get a spring ball. They didn't get much of a summer to work on this. They're having to kind of learn on this all on the fly in a shortened period. And it's just so difficult to do that. It's something that's going to – and especially you mentioned it, only 2 returning starters where – it's not a lot of experienced players either. And these kids have been doing this, the flex bone, for the last 8-9 years. Well, for these kids that are now in high school, that's basically been their entire football lives to this point. So this is just something completely different. It's just going to take a while. And you got to have some patience out there. It's not pretty right now. But Coach Kokenar, he's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. And, he can stick it out there, and they have some patience with him, and they have some buy-in. I think you're going to see some things turn around in the future for Altus. This year, obviously, it's not going well, but just stick with it. As far as Eisenhower goes, I mean, the one thing I will say about Eisenhower, they're so much more crisp, especially offensively, than what you saw even a year ago. Offensive line, it's drastically improved. You're seeing so much more technique, so much guys know who to block, they know when to block them, they know how to block them so much better this year. And then Trayvon Walton, when you have a guy back there, you just see the natural instincts. He had I think it was about a 30-yard touchdown run in that first quarter where he just slithers through the hole. He finds a little crack, and then he makes a nice little move to get away from a safety and run the rest of the way. That guy just has some really natural instincts. He's certainly not the biggest guy. They do have some big guys up in that offensive line. He can kind of hide behind those guys and find creases here and there, and he's been special so far this season. Everything they're doing is just so much more crisp. Defensively, tough to take away much this week. I mean, obviously, I think they've got some really good players on that defensive front. I mean, Jason Payne's had a really nice start to the season. They've got some young guys who look the part. They hit hard. I mean, there's a great future, especially on that defensive front, for the Eisenhower Eagles. Outside of that, tough to tell against Altus what you can take away. Going to be a lot more interesting this week to see how they can, stand up to a really big physical offensive line from Lawton High.
Yeah, they're gonna. You're absolutely right. We're gonna learn a lot more, as they take on Lawton High. I think that the, like you mentioned, in terms of that offensive line, I have been really impressed with their blocking ability. I mean, he had some holes against MacArthur that he just didn't have last year. You look at guys like Kevin Sovo, who, that's a guy that I know I've talked to coaches. They're confused as to why he's not getting offers because, I mean, he's got good size. His technique is very nice. And then I know that a lot was made about this freshman class coming in, and we've seen guys like Kingston Tito and Jermaine View play really, a lot of minutes so far, a lot of snaps, and they made some freshman mistakes. They're going to, but I mean, there was a play the other night where I think down in the red zone, I forget which one it was. It might have been Jermaine that they had in at left tackle. Or they had one of them in at left tackle. And again, it was probably a particular package, but still, that's a 14-year-old playing left tackle. I mean, again, it's against an Altus team that didn't have a ton of size, but that kind of made one of my eyebrows go up a little bit. Around the state, couple other games kind of in our area that caught my eye. Man, I know Plainview wasn't what they were last year, but how about the Cash Bulldogs pitching another shutout? Holy mackerel. I mean, and it sounds like they really could have put some more points on the board, just kind of left some opportunities out there. I mean, what are your thoughts about Farron Griffin's boys so far? I mean, they definitely seem improved from last year.
Always so well coached, always so good on the defensive side of the ball. They know where they're supposed to be. I think they learned a lot from that week 1 game. I mean, they had some mistakes early in that game that caused them to fall behind against a good El Reno squad that hasn't been the same the last couple of weeks with their quarterback injured. Yeah. But you've seen a lot of growth since then. Those just a few mental errors. They've cleaned those up. That staff, they do such a good job of getting those kids prepared every single week to play. Defensively, offensively, they run something that you just don't see very often. Teams have trouble adjusting to their style of offense because hardly anybody else runs it. And Kynell Daniels is a heck of a running back. Hunter Glenn, he's grown up in that system. You see him really developing as a passer this year. He's made some big plays. Hunter Tate's made some nice plays out there at the receiver position. They're a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I cannot wait for district play for 4A District 1. That is a loaded district. The race for the playoffs this year in 4A District 1 is going to be incredible. I mean, you look at it, you got Weatherford, who's one of the top teams in the state. Clinton, they didn't beat Heritage Hall, but they gave them everything they wanted to last week. Go up and down the list. I mean, Chickasha, we've seen what their potential is early on. Cash, we've seen what their potential is. Even a team like Elk City, now I'm a little bit biased. My father's on the coaching staff, so I've got to say that. I've got to say that right off the bat. But they're a much improved team. They've won 2 in a row in blowout fashion, so they're not the automatic W they've been. So that's going to be a fun district. Even a team like Bethany coming over, new team in the district, great team the last couple of years. We'll see what they have in 4A District 1 this year, but that's going to be such a fun playoff race. 1 to 4, I think there's going to be some great games as we get into district play.
It's going to be an absolute dogfight. I mean, it is going to be and maybe the one team that you didn't mention from that district, because you mentioned about how Clinton, put a big old scare into Heritage Hall. How about how about Newcastle nearly knocking off Tuttle? I mean, that one kind of made me go, whoa, hey there, Newcastle, what up? Welcome to the party. Because Tuttle is a team that maybe they're not what they were a couple of years ago when they were winning the state title, but they definitely appear to be. I mean, the head coach there, I think it's Brad Ballard. That's a name that just has so much respect and admiration attached to it around the state. A couple other games around the state that really kind of caught my eye. The fact that Cashin really taking it to Minko, just kind of further instilled that Cashin's going to be really, really good. Obviously, John Marshall nearly beating Vian, Anadarko and Marlowe. I said at the beginning of the week, I think this is going to be a really good game. I hope I'm not wrong, because I also thought Anadarko Elgin was going to be a good game. And you know what? In the first half, our writer that was covering it texted me and he says, I think I'm bad luck for our local teams. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, I covered Elgin and they lost, and I'm covering Anadarko and they're getting beat. And I was like, oh, really? Is it that bad? He goes, oh, yeah. Well, then I don't know what his definition of really bad was. I mean, I didn't see the game, so maybe Marlowe was kind of taking it to him in the first half. But, Anadarko had an unfortunate play near the goal line where the ball fumbles right at the goal line. And I was watching y'all's roundup show on Friday night that, Will Hutchinson was pointing out, like, we even slowed it down. And he wasn't in. And that's like the most gut punch way to not score. Marlowe's a team that I have just absolutely had a football man crush on for like 7 months. Really longer, because at the end of that playoff game last year, I remember talking to Coach Weber and saying, man, Coach, how bad does this feel, for these seniors? And I'm clearly a really good interviewer. I make them feel really bad about losing. But, I was like, well, what about, this kid? He goes, oh, well, no, he's just a junior. I go, oh, okay. Well, what about no, he's a sophomore. That's when it kicked in my head that, like, Gilbert's back, Bergner's back, Jace Knight is back. A lot of that offensive line is back. I mean, that's a team that can really cause some havoc, and has already been getting some votes. I think they were in the Class 2A poll this past week.
Yeah, they were number 8 this week.
They were number 8, and I don't know if they'll necessarily move up because I don't think anybody ahead of them lost. It looks like Metro Christian was the only one that didn't play, and everybody else, Beggs did not play either, but everybody else seemed to really kind of take care of business. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see this upcoming week. MacArthur playing Enid, that's going to be interesting just because of the size difference. I feel like, Enid's a school that, hasn't been the same in football. Has produced some really good players over the years. When you look at, obviously, the Shelf brothers and I believe Austin Box. But I once had a friend who played against he played football, I think, at Owasso, and as a sophomore, he made it to the varsity team, and I think watched Austin Box play football on both sides of the ball and said, it was at that time that I realized I was a basketball player. And that's when, because Austin Box scared me out of football. But yeah, it's, Enid is a program that obviously has been kind of up and down and been just kind of run of the mill for a while. But I think that they, them coming to Cameron Stadium, that's going to be a very interesting matchup for MacArthur. Around this, around our area, again, are there any other games that really pique your interest? I think Tipton, and I believe Tipton plays Velma Alma this week. That one, I know Tipton's not what they used to be, but if you're a VA, and I know you, like myself, are a big fan of them and what Coach Norton is doing with Tristan Wainscott and them. If you're the Comets, a win over Tipton, that's a big feather in your cap.
Yeah, I think Velma Alma is one of those teams that right now, they're kind of in their own corner that nobody's really talking about, mainly because, last year they moved down to the 8-man level, but they had to play an independent schedule. They went unbeaten against that independent schedule, but it didn't matter. They didn't get a chance to get in the playoffs and really show what they were about. So teams or people around the state still don't know exactly what Velma Alma's about. They've got 2 really nice wins on their resume already. Empire's a good ball club, and they handled them. Maysville is a very good ball club, and they went in there and handled them as well. Tristan Wainscott, one of the best players I would have to imagine in the 8-man level. That kid is a threat with his legs. He's a threat through the air. I think he had 6 touchdown passes last week. You don't see that very often at the 8-man level. So they're going to be a threat. They're in Class B. Tipton got their first win. I haven't got a chance to see Tipton just yet, but obviously a lot of new faces over there. They've got a couple of returners, but for the most part, it's a lot of brand new players this year for Tipton. They're moving up to Class B, a different environment for them. Going to be interesting to see how they can handle that. I think you have to say Velma almost probably favored in that game. They've just shown a little bit more to this point, but it's going to be interesting to see how Tipton kind of rebounds from that early season. Last year they were 0-3 to start with, ended up making the state semifinal. So it's a team that tends to get better throughout the year, every single year. And we'll see what Coach Travis White could do with that club this year. Going back a little bit, you were talking about Marlowe a little bit earlier and how you've had a man crush on that team. Jace Gilbert's one of those kids that he's just so much fun to watch because he's a big, hard-nosed quarterback, but he's also maybe one of the best kickers in the state. And that was definitely the difference in that Anadarko game. Anadarko went for 2 every time. They only went 1 for 3. 2-point conversions. Jace Gilbert lined up, kicked 3 extra points, boomed 3 extra points. That ended up being the difference in the ball game. I can't wait. We mentioned 4A District 1. I can't wait for that Class 2A district between Marlowe, Frederick, and Comanche right now. All 2-0, and all have been extremely impressive early on in the season. I think we're going to get some really fun area matchups in that district as well.
Well, in that whole district, and Lindsay took it on the chin, I guess, this week, but that's a team that I predicted to win that whole district. You also have Davis. And I don't know. I absolutely agree, though. Those 3 teams are that's just going to be a slugfest. And, Comanche definitely looks like they have, whatever momentum they had at the end of last year, they had carried over. That was a team that I remember at the beginning of last year thinking, oh, my gosh, this is going to be a long year for them. And they were able to put it together the second half of the season and not just win games, but shut opponents down. And, once, like you said, it's almost like it's almost kind of like, if you want to call it like the old Big 12 South or like the the SEC West, it's top to bottom, it's pretty good, but those it's going to be a little round robin like that. If you almost want to compare it to like the '08 Big 12 with like Texas Tech, Oklahoma, they might just beat up on each other. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. And I'm just glad that we have football back. But some very interesting games coming up this week. Okay. Before I let you go, in celebration of football being back, I've tried to do a segment each week where I kind of pick something a little off the wall to do with my guests. Now, you do not post on your Twitter that you are a fan of old school hip hop or collectible cars. I couldn't figure out a Kyle Weatherly fun tidbit, so I figured we would do this. I know we have discussed, or whether we've discussed it face to face or it's just you commenting on a Twitter post of mine. You're not just a big football fan, but you're a fan of movies, which I think would be weird to say that you're not a fan. Like, no, I don't like movies. But what we'll do, I don't know, we can do 3 or 4 picks each. We will do a fantasy, we'll do a mock draft where you pick draft eligible, or we can say all of them are draft eligible, football movie characters. So this could be from anything. It doesn't have to be a football movie. It could just be a football player in a movie. And so I will
give you... TV shows count.
Yeah, we'll go with TV shows too. Movies and TV show, football player, mock draft. Kyle Weatherly, you are on the board with the number 1 pick. Are you going offense? Are you going defense? Who are you picking?
I think you got to start with offense, right? The most important position, quarterback. Give me Vince Howard, Friday Night Lights.
Somehow I knew you were going to go with that show, and I need to go back and rewatch that show. I never finished it all the way. I watched a little bit at the beginning. I think I was too much of I don't know. The movie and the book have such a place in my heart that I think I just kind of, turned my back on the show, and I was like, this isn't about football, it's about romance. But that's half the fun of it, I guess.
You can't look at it as the same thing. They're
it's
completely
not.
different entities. Yeah, same name, but they're completely different.
I think I think that bugged me, was that they use the same branding, and I was like, it's not the same. It's not. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm torn here. I am torn here. I am going to go. I will also go with quarterback. I'm going to go with. This is a guy with some, some questions about his character. This is maybe a little bit of a deep cut for some people. I'm going to go with Joe Kane from the movie The Replacements. I mean, not The Replacements.
The program.
The program. Yeah, gummit, Glenn. No, the
Kane
program.
Is able. Kane is able.
Kane is able. Yeah, that movie for me. I forget if I discovered that on like ESPN Classic or something like that one night, and I was like, oh my god, it's like if if they made it. I don't know. It really kind of reminded me of when ESPN did that. What was that show? Golly, I can't remember now.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yes.
The one where the NFL got all upset about.
Yeah. Yes. But that's such a great movie, and you could have easily. I don't know. I always still like the what's his face. The linebacker dude whose name I'm blanking on, that wears the eye black and breaks the window. Latimer.
Oh,
Latimer.
Yeah, Latimer.
Latimer. Place at the table. Yeah.
All right. So speaking of the program, I'm going to cheat a little bit here on my next pick.
Oh, gosh.
Because I'm going to take my quarterback of the defense from the program, Alvin Mack. Here's where I'm going to cheat. That same actor played Featherstone and Necessary Roughness, so I'm getting a receiver and a linebacker with the same pick.
Oh my gosh, you animal! You're bending the rules in front of my very eyes.
Absolutely.
I'll allow it. Hell, last week when I asked Alex Roig of Daily Thunder for his 90s hip hop Mount Rushmore, we allowed him to put all 9 faces of the Wu-Tang Clan as one. So okay, I will go defense as well, and I'm torn here between 2 very interesting players. And you know, his Wonderlic score might not be super high, but give me Bobby Boucher, because he brings like 20 tackles a game to the table, plus he brings a high quality H2O, and he loves his mama. So and he respects women. So I'm gonna take Bobby Boucher. Hopefully, hanging out with my veteran players will be a good influence on him, or maybe he'll be a good influence on them. Whatever.
Okay, I need a running back, and so I'm gonna go. Here's a good one for you. I know you watched this when you were a little kid. Give me Spike from the Little Giants.
Spike Hammerschmidt. Oh my God. Well, I hope I hope you don't have that female assistant coach from the 49ers, because you know Spike don't play with girls. But that's a good one. Well, let me look here. Let's see here. You know, I got to protect my quarterback, man. I got to protect my quarterback. So give me Billy Bob. He's
I knew you were
college.
going there.
Give me Billy Bob, whatever, 390 pounds of him out of Varsity Blues.
Well, Billy Bob's going to have trouble blocking my next pick. Give me Brian from All the Right Moves.
Oh, wow.
He didn't go to SC.
Jeez.
He didn't go to SC, but he's still got plenty of talent.
Dadgum, that is a deep cut. That is
Deep cut for you.
That is a deep. Is that was
Chris
that Tom
Penn.
Cruise's? Oh, Chris Penn's character.
Chris
Okay,
Penn.
got it. Okay, yeah. Okay.
How about a coach? We got to have a coach, right?
Yeah. Well, if we're picking a coach, I know who I'm picking. I'm picking the actual coach. I'm picking Hayden Fox. From
course.
The show coach. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, do you get Luther and Dauber with that, or is Hayden
absolutely,
just like,
yeah. Well, I will trade a conditional 6th-round pick for Dauber, and well, actually, I think I just need to give Dauber some snacks and let him play with my dogs. And I'm pretty sure that what was the Van Dyke's character's name?
Luther Van Dam. Come on,
Luther
now.
Van Dam. It's
Come
been a
on
long
now.
time since I watched that show. I watched that show growing up. Like, I was probably like the youngest kid. Like, I was like the only kid in my school that like knew the theme song to that show. Because I would stay up and try to watch it with my dad. Because like it's about football, and my mom's like, it's really not, but whatever.
Close enough, right?
Yeah, close enough. Okay, so am I now on the clock, or are you picking a coach?
I'm gonna pick a coach. I got to stick with Friday Night Lights. Give me Eric Taylor.
Dadgummit, I knew you would.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let me see here. There are some good options still left. Well, I know who I'm not picking. I'm not picking Rudy, because that guy just whined his way onto a football field.
He didn't have any talent. Can't take that.
No.
All right. Talent.
I need a pass catcher. Again, maybe my team isn't necessarily the most orthodox. Some Mel Kiper might question some of the off the field stuff with my players. This guy's coming straight out of Allenville, baby. Deacon Moss.
Nice pick.
Yeah, he will literally moss everybody, and he actually, scouts have told me that he bears a striking resemblance on the field to Michael Irvin. So that's all I need.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Well, I gotta go receiver too. Then give me Tweeter.
I knew you were gonna go with Tweeter. Tweeter drink beer. Tweeter drinks beer.
Gotta have somebody to keep the mood light.
I heard he likes those chicken wings that which NBA player was that we talked about? Was that Lou Williams?
Lou Williams.
Yeah.
How about them being in a Game 7 now, by the way? How bad is that?
I'm like full. I might be ordering my Nuggets shirt right now, just along with my Dallas Stars gear, just because I'm going to be a bandwagon fan at this point. Okay, so I know I said 7 rounds. I had forgot how many freaking players I have at this point. Let's see here. Well, I don't think I picked a running back yet. Man, again, maybe let me see if this.
Come on, there's an obvious option, especially for you, my man. Especially for you. You want to win? Put Booby in.
I gotta go Booby Miles, baby. Now, is this pre or post knee surgery?
We'll go pre. I get Alvin Mack pre knee surgery.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go with Booby Miles. Yeah, I nearly went Don Billingsley because he's gonna like drink his beer and then still get his yards the next day. But no, I'm going Booby, baby.
I need some versatility on my offense. A fullback, he can play a little H-back, he can play a little tailback. Timmy Riggins.
Dadgummit. That's a huge risk. Huge risk. Is his brother coming too?
Especially with him and Tweeter on the same team. That might spell trouble.
An absolute kegger. Okay.
We're going to have fun, though. We're going to win, Saturday through Thursday for sure.
You ain't never lost a party. You know what? I'm going to go with, let's see here. Man, I'm going to go, I think, you know what? This is another one, not from a football movie per se, but one of the more memorable football scenes you will see in a movie. If he's properly motivated, he's unstoppable. Give me Charles Jefferson from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. If I just smash up his car the night before the game and say that the Philadelphia Eagles did it, then maybe he'll rack up like 8 sacks the next day or something like that. So that's what I'm hoping.
You need special teams. It's the little known.
Don't you do it.
The forgotten aspect of the game. I got to have a return man. You know where I'm going. Run, Forrest. Run.
Okay.
He was an All-American. He visited
All-American.
the White House.
Yes.
He can return kicks for me.
He showed the president his bum.
That's right. Well, not that time.
Oh, not that. That was a different one.
Yes, not that visit. Not that
visit. Yeah.
He drank 14 Dr. Peppers.
That's true. Yes, he did. All right. Well, where I thought you were going to go with it on special teams, and let me make sure I get this name right.
Are you talking Lucy? Are we going Lucy here?
No,
Unnecessary roughness? No.
Dadgummit. I have not seen this movie in so long, and I'm forgetting his name or her. I don't know. I'm playing mind games.
Trying to be coy.
Dadgummit.
Come on, the clock's ticking.
Oh gosh, where the heck is he? Nigel Gruff. I am picking Nigel Gruff, the kicker from the
Widery.
He's Widery.
Nice, solid, very solid pick.
Yeah,
very solid pick.
All right, do you want to do one more?
How many rounds
round?
are we doing here?
We'll do one more round.
Do one more. Oh goodness.
A lot of places you can go with this. I got 2
receivers. I feel like I need another defender though. See, I gotta go to the replacements too, but I can't remember the character's name.
Yeah, I
can tell you what he is in other shows.
Okay.
The safety. I can't remember the safety's name.
Is it Clifford Franklin?
Well, no, he was the receiver. I'm talking about the safety they got out of prison.
It's been so long since I saw that movie. Oh, John Favreau was in that. That's right.
Yeah, John Favreau was in that as a linebacker. John Favreau's actually been in several sports movies. Impressively
before he took over the world.
Here's the funny part. John Favreau is basically the same character in The Replacements as he is in the remake of The Longest Yard. Basically the same character.
John Favreau was in Longest Yard?
I think he was. Wasn't he? Maybe I'm forgetting something.
Well, he was the best friend in Rudy. He was the best friend in Rudy.
Yeah, but I'm talking. He was like a big linebacker, hard-hitting linebacker kind of guy. Earl Wilkinson is the player I'm looking for. Earl Wilkinson.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Hard-hitting safety right out of prison.
Hey, he's got a mean streak. Okay, well, one more pick for me. This is man, a lot riding on this. I'm gonna go. I feel like you went versatility. I'm gonna go versatility as well, and a guy who in real life is a Harvard man. Give me Brian Chavez from Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
Which I've actually heard was inaccurately portrayed in the movie. I think in the show or in the book, I think he was more of a tight end. They had him like playing free safety, something like that. But
that movie wasn't the most accurate.
Oh my gosh,
a biography.
And you know what? I didn't plan this initially as an add-on to this segment, but I know I posted on Twitter at some point this summer, what is, your most annoying or frustrating inaccuracy or like oversight in a sports movie? Because I was that kid, when people are like watching The Rookie, I was like, the Rangers didn't have blue uniforms at that point. This is wrong. I forget what movie was it. My wife picked my gosh, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days with Matthew McConaughey, where they play the NBA Finals 4 days in a row.
Apparently, the Knicks just had an extra special home court advantage for that series.
Yeah, which honestly, the most inaccurate thing of that whole thing was the fact that the Kings and the Knicks would be in the NBA Finals.
Well, the sad part is back then the most inaccurate part would have been the Knicks because the Kings were awesome.
The Kings back then were great. Yeah, that was the Vlade. Vlade and Peja and Mike Bibby. Is there any inaccuracies in sports movies that just absolutely took you right out of it?
Well, I mean, besides just the football, the way they shoot it in general, it's every play, every movie, it's down to the last play. It's a Hail Mary or some kind of crazy play. Yeah.
Cough, cough. Remember,
there's very few that get it right. Yeah. We're gonna get really crazy here by running a reverse, and our quarterback
70 yards,
cleat about 6 guys on the way to the end zone. Yeah. That might be the biggest upset of this whole draft. Neither one of us picked anybody from Remember the Titans.
No,
I was close on Otis Campbell. I was close.
Julius.
Julius Campbell.
Yeah. And nobody picked Rod Tidwell. Which I don't know, kind of has an ego issue, but he loves his family. You bring up some of the football just not looking super accurate. I went back and watched Caddyshack not long ago, and their golf swings are unorthodox to say the least. And
awful.
Shoot, I can't even.
That's just the way it is.
I can't crack 100, and I have a better swing than that. It's been a while. And another movie that nobody picked anyone from, and I nearly when I earlier said that I was torn on my second pick, and I went Bobby Boucher, partly as a tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman, nearly went Vontae Mack. Surprised nobody went Vontae Mack. Which draft day,
it's so bad. Honest, I kind of forget about it.
Kind of a spare movie. Actually, a very spare movie. It's just you dissect and you're like, nobody would make those trades in their lifetime, or
no,
we're just
for the reasons they would make them.
Yeah, we need a punt returner, trade a second rounder, or whatever it was.
Well, the sad part though is there's not really a good way to do that movie. I mean, if you want to make it accurate, it's going to be boring. So they kind of have to Hollywood it up as much as they can to make it somewhat interesting, but it just kills every realistic aspect about it.
I mean, this is pre-LeBron coming back home. Cleveland needed something. So they have that movie. Well, Kyle, thank you so much, man. This was fun. We'll, you're always welcome on, and, look forward to more football. Hopefully fewer cancellations, but, we will definitely see you around, sir.
Absolutely. Let's get back together sometime middle of the season, maybe talk a little bit more college. We actually know a little bit more about some of these teams.
For sure.
And then, of course, high school as they start getting ready, getting to the stretch run of district play for sure.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you having me, Glenn.
Yeah, not a problem, Kyle. All right, for SpOKen Freely, I'm Glenn Brockenbush. See y'all later.